Welcome to the One Gang Worldwide podcast, your ultimate ride into the world of motorcycles. Visit cyclesworldwide.com where we offer a completely free marketplace for everything motorcycles. Join our One Gang community where you can connect, share info, and swap stories with riders from all over the world. Join for free at cyclesworldwide.com and be a part of the One Gang community right now. Today's guest is a true master of his craft. Cody Brouwers, the man behind Trader Cody's Choppers, isn't just building bikes, he's creating them from the ground up. From custom frames to one-of-a-kind parts, he's turning raw metal into rolling works of art. Let's dive into this journey, the bikes, the parts, and what it takes to chase your passion while running and building a small business while balancing personal family life.
You know, not to say anything bad about, stock bikes. I love everybody on motorcycles. Everybody should have a motorcycle.
Me
but
too, I agree.
For me, I won't ride a stock bike. No. I can't. It feels wrong to me. I have to have a customized bike,
Hey, One Gang, if you enjoy the podcast, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can turn notifications on to hear when new episodes are dropped too. Any of your engagement supports the show and helps us book great guests and keeps us going. If you or a friend would make a great guest, hit us up at cyclesworldwide.com or drop a comment. Thank you guys so much.
One Gang Worldwide podcast, brought to you by Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping. Since 1978, Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping has been the trusted name in transporting motorcycles safely across the country. With custom designed pallets and air ride trailers, your bike is secure and protected every step of the way. By choosing Keyboard Motorcycle Shipping, you're supporting a dedicated small business that prioritizes quality and customer satisfaction. Ship with a peace of mind, knowing your motorcycle is in expert hands. Visit keyboardmotorcycleshipping.com for more information. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
All right, One Gang, welcome to the show. Today we've got Cody Brouwers of Trader Cody's Choppers. We are excited to have you, man. This dude is a competitor. We're excited to hear about your work, and we're really grateful for you joining us today, man. Thanks, Cody.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Super excited about this.
Awesome, Cody. Thanks, brother, for coming on, man. Ready to pick that intelligent, crazy brain of yours. So, like we do every podcast, let's get into the early years. Take us back in the beginning where you grew up. What kind of kid were you growing up?
Yeah, totally. So growing up, I grew up in Truckee, California, which is a little mountain town just outside of Lake Tahoe. And my dad is a mechanic by trade. So he would, always have something going on and started us early. My earliest memory is sitting on a tank of his three-wheeler. And my brother was on the tank of the other three-wheeler that my mom was riding. And they would just ride around the hills with us. That's, so it's literally as far back as I can remember, I've been on some sort of, motorcycle. But started there. And growing up, I was kind of that, kid that didn't know where he would fit in, not a huge hot rod scene in Truckee, California.
Right.
So my first car, my dad had brought home in a bed of his truck as a 66 Bug. As my 15th birthday present. And he said, if you want to drive when you're 16, you better start working. So,
yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So that's
he threw a DIY right on you, man.
Exactly. And he's like, if you want to drive, you got to know how to maintain your car and build your car. And so, did that. And then before I graduated high school, had a 72 El Camino, and then always had dirt bikes growing up. I had a Trail 70 when I was real small. My dad bartered it and then rode that everywhere. And then had a Yamaha dirt bike after that. And then I was late to the street riding, time frame. Yeah.
Was your brother a gearhead too, like you?
Not at all. Nope.
No shit.
Nope.
Huh?
He's a musician. He's actually a professional musician. That's what he does. He tours and does all that. Yep.
Nice.
And that's all he does. He's, he could change wheels. That's about it, but he's talented in so many other ways. And my dad saw that. I think he saw Cody doesn't have that talent. So we got to teach him some trades,
That's funny,
man. That's funny, man.
Yeah.
So that Bug, did you throw a 357 on the back of it and put some swampers on?
God, I wish. No, yeah. It was just a normal 1600 cc, which is funny because now half the bikes out there are bigger than that engine was. But yeah, go out there. That's and crazy. Do that. Yeah, it was cool. And then my first bike, I got it estate sale, and it was a purple Honda
Nice.
Rebel, and got that
Nice.
when I was 18. So that's when I started riding on the street, was on
That's cool.
right around 18 and a half, something
Well,
like that.
I think everybody needs to start off on a small bike like that, little cruiser, you know, just to get their feet wet. I mean, I think that's one of the crazy things that's happening is, you know, these parents have a shitload of money. They're buying these kids these bikes that are like, God damn, you know, they jumping them on 750s, 1000s right away. 16, 17 years old. It's like, might as well give them a gun and let them spin it, man. You know,
I know it's wild. Like, there's nothing wrong with starting out on a small bike. They're cheap. If you lay them down, you don't have to feel bad about it. You know,
exactly.
it's a good start, you know, and yeah, I think I paid $600 for that Honda Rebel. I felt like I was the coolest dude ever. Had those little mini apes on it, you know, got my hands up. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Was it that classic like royal purple sort of color?
It was, yeah. And then we called it Purple Rain forever. So
Yes.
that bike bounced around between my friends for the next 10 years. So we would just, you know, everybody on that bike.
Is
That's
that
awesome.
kind of where you got your feet wet a little bit with messing with the motorcycles as far, because you said you put ape hangers on it?
Yeah, I had little mini apes all. That was the
Nice.
first mod I did on that. But, you know, when it came to modding, everything had to be, you know, modified. Didn't matter.
Of
From the
course.
bug on, everything had to have something
That's
done
right.
to it. You know,
That's
it could
right.
not be stock.
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
The spirit started early.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has that moment where they get hooked. Do you remember maybe the first time or just a time stand out when you saw a chopper and you were like, this is it. That's what
Yeah.
I want to do.
Yeah, so that happened. God, I'm trying to remember. So it was that El Diablo run that Biltwell puts on. It's like a ride through Mexico.
It's a badass.
And
I saw
I
the
had moved.
documentary.
Yeah, so I had moved to Fullerton to go to school, and I had gotten like a Cycle Source magazine, I think it was back then, or one of, I forget who put it in, but it was there from 2007's Ride. And it was like, look at this. They had, you know, 50 people on choppers. Like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, that is my life from here on out. And then 2008's EDR was my first go on a chopper. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, it was, there was no stopping it after that.
Stop it. So you basically fell in love with that old school kind of chopped up, that I guess that classic, what's it called? Not lifestyle, but it's almost like, I don't know, the word slipped my mind, but that's where you knew kind of like, these are the types of bikes that I'm going to work with. These are the types of bikes that I'm going to ride.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was those, you know, I remember watching the TV series and all that and the biker build offs and stuff and just thinking that was so unattainable, you know, that they were, you know, big dollar things. And, you know, didn't have a big dollar wallet, you know, so
Right.
you know, so I saw.
Not many did at that time, but 5 years later, you can buy them on our budget.
Exactly. Yeah. You see some of those bikes now and I'm like looking at them going, oh my God, that was $100,000 bike that they're selling, you know, oh my God.
Like $8,000, $5,000. I'm like, shit.
Exactly. I'm like, oh God, that's so tempting. But yeah, so then seeing all these guys that were building these bikes from nothing. And at the time it didn't much matter, you know, there was guys out there on Harleys and Triumphs and BSAs and, you know, it didn't have to be that, you know, you had to have a big twin Evo that was a, you know, 1,000,000 cubic inches. Like, it was like, if you ride a chopper, it's okay that it's not a Harley.
Some Triumphs and BSAs are just so awesome back from that era anyway, man. That's how I got sparked too, man. And then obviously the Harley world came in. So let's go into, before Trader Cody's Choppers was your business, before you started all that. What were you doing prior? Take us a little bit into your life after high school and so on.
Yeah. So after that, I moved down into Southern California, and down there was so much customization that you could find. And it still is that way. You know, it's not as frequent as it was back in the day, but driving around down there, just going down there, you see hot rods and custom bikes, and it's just something that I had never seen before. So I remember, you know, like the neighbor down the street had a Model A, you know, rat rod and, you know, so all of that. So that was one of those things that, you know, it just kind of opened my eyes to seeing, you know, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to start working this way and, work towards, building up to getting my first Harley, and that took a number of years. Funny, that Honda Rebel got crashed a couple of times, but I had a ex-girlfriend crash it through a car. She said she could ride and couldn't, and smacked into the side of a car. And so collected insurance off of that thing finally. And then that turned into the Nick's bike. And I think I was some Yamaha or something. And then that turned into anyways, I just built up to my first Harley, which was a 883 Sportster, which, that's everybody's got to get a Sportster at some point.
It's like the king of starts, man. It's the king of starts. Most of the guys we talk to, always their first bike is some form of a Sportster. So either 1200 or 883.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had an 883 and, I just went from thinking that Harleys, were all looked like Softails, right? And then I got that Sportster, like, this thing's ugly as sin. Like they're not great looking bikes. It was a 2001 with a big, goofy looking tank that it had on it, that hugger tank, it was too long. Yeah. It wasn't the peanut that it was supposed to be. So that was, so I took that all apart and built my first little real Harley chopper.
That's basically how you started kind of wrenching more.
Yep. That was it. Yeah.
Getting into that Harley scene of customizing the Harleys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, from there, after I got the Harley, I started moving around a lot. So I moved from SoCal up to Washington and then moved to here in Reno after that. And, just trying to figure out what I was doing in my life. And, and from there found a little shop here in Reno. And it was, called A Cycle. And, he just did British bikes, but, it's one of those things that during that whole time I was trying to find somebody that would teach me, I wanted to learn more about motorcycles, and I wasn't looking for a job. I was looking for, let me just stand in your shop. I'll clean your shop. I'll clean your bathrooms. Let me watch what you're doing.
And get an education. Yeah.
Exactly. Get that education that is so crucial. And, that was on the tail end of everybody in the big, the wide tires. They were slowing down. They were trying to stay afloat. They didn't want some kid,
right,
kicked around their shop. They didn't want that. And, and, the old school chopper scene hadn't really picked up enough to, make that a thing. So anyways, this guy at this British shop, said, hey, I don't want somebody kicking around my shop. I don't want your bullshit, but, I need to be on the internet. Do you know anything about this internet stuff? And he's, absolutely. So I went in there and I, built their website for them and did their first, stuff like that, and got all that all set up for them, their online store. Exactly. Got their social media rolling. And that's how I got my foot in the door, and from there, took a bunch of community college classes on welding. And that's how I learned how to weld. Nice. I feel like right now there's a lot of people out there trying to, go to these crazy schools and spend all this money on learning how to weld. And it's like your local community college has got classes for that,
right.
Yeah. Did you start with TIG or what'd you start with?
No, oxyacetylene. Yeah. So did that first, learned how to oxyacetylene weld, which is old school. Nobody does that anymore anywhere. So I don't even know why they had that as a class. I was like, that's old school. I'm going to learn that. And then MIG from there. And then after that was TIG. So
nice. Right on. Nice. Yeah. Hey, you had mentioned you did a little you were part of a motorcycle club. You okay talking about a little bit of that? Or?
Yeah, we could talk about that. Yeah, so I spent 13 years involved in a motorcycle club. This was after I moved back to Reno. So 13 years in it, a couple years running it.
Okay.
Yeah, when I joined the club, it was everything that I wanted to be a part of. Like the camaraderie and brotherhood. It all seemed really, really fabulous. And then I got hit 3 different times by people in that organization. And after that,
when you say hit, you mean hit?
Ran into.
Like,
yeah. So, riding in the front of the pack, everyone behind you, they got to learn how to ride or know what they're doing. And they did. Yeah. So hit 3 different times. And, when I left that organization, I couldn't get further away. It was one of those situations that, I was done. We don't have any, association with each other whatsoever. We're not friends. We don't speak.
It's not a 1%. It's not a 1% club, right?
No, not that I'm aware of. It's a mom and pop club up and, as far as, all of that goes, like, whatever they're doing, they still use all of my, pictures and builds on their social medias. But other than that, that's the only contact I have with them is seeing my pictures on their stuff.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
and there's some great clubs out there doing great stuff, and
Mm.
clubs doing old school stuff. And I love that,
Yeah.
just that organization wasn't right for me anymore. But there's some guys out there that are just absolutely, building choppers, riding choppers, doing great stuff. And
That's cool.
so,
Nice. So you had mentioned mentors earlier. Did you manage to find any mentors, or was it more of a trial and error process?
yeah, it was a really big trial and error process for me, trying to get people. I would take a little bit from everyone, but nobody told me about choppers. It was like I had a
Yeah.
welding mentor. I had, my dad as a mechanic was, always there to, remind me what I was doing wrong,
Right.
But,
That's a dad. Yeah.
he's not a Harley guy, which is hilarious. Like to this day, he rides a Victory.
Victor.
And
Huh.
he has got a Victory and a BMW Enduro, and
Gotcha.
he
Ah,
is not a Harley guy. So he likes to tell people the only Harleys he ever bought were the ones that he helped me finance in the early days. Yeah, it's funny.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Breaking balls about Harleys and you.
Yeah, exactly. But so he never understood that that feeling that we
Right.
all get when So, but yeah, so those are my mentors, and then that guy at A-Cycle was the first one to really sit down with me and help me.
So that's cool. You got a chance to learn a little bit about the British bikes too, then.
It was, yeah, my first like real chopper was a Honda 450 that I hardtailed. And then I had shown him that, and he said, "That's cool, but you got to get off that Japanese bike stuff. Here's the British bike stuff," which is so funny because we here, think, get off that Japanese bike stuff, get on a Harley,
Right.
he was-
Right.
Yeah.
Get
So
up.
then he worked through my first Triumph build, which is a TR6C 69.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we put like Bonneville heads on it, built the motor together.
Hella.
He helped me. That was before they were repopping Wassell tanks. So if you had an old Wassell little peanut tank, that was the shit. And so I found one, but it had a bunch of holes in it. He showed me how to weld it up. And yeah, that was my
Nice.
first kind of
That's
dabble
awesome,
into
man.
that.
That's awesome. That when it's so cool. And I apologize that I cut you off, but it's just so
No, it's
awesome to
okay.
hear that as guys in this industry that always had this one person that gave them that shot, that believed in them. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
kind of once they built the trust with them and they knew that you weren't just a flyby guy, took them under their wing and kind of introduced them and showed them things that even schools, if you go for school, won't show you. So that's awesome to hear, man. It sounds like he really influenced you in a very positive way.
Absolutely. And I feel like with, schooling, they teach you what you need to know, but they don't teach you what's cool.
Right.
right.
You need that guy that's going to be like, "No, that doesn't look good. You're doing that wrong. You got to do this. This is cool." And that guy was definitely that for me. And then he introduced me to a bunch of other people that were into choppers and doing chopper things. And so that kind of grew that, which is super rad. And it's funny, I sold that Triumph and the same day bought my first shovel head.
Nice.
So
Huh.
yeah, one of the customers came into the shop there and he said, "I'm selling my shovel head." And I said, "How much?" And he gave me the price. And I literally posted my Triumph on Craigslist for that amount of money.
Just to
And
get
then
it.
somebody-
Oh, wow.
Yep. Just to get my first shovel head, which was an 84 FLH King of the Highway. And-
Yeah. Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah. And he brought that over
Crazy.
to that shop and literally they gave him
And
the
if
money.
you remember, I mean, I know you remember because you were part of it, but I mean, shit, you can buy shovel heads so cheap back in the day, I mean, they were nothing. They were bringing nothing at all times. Now they're bringing money, but,
Yeah.
it's
It was
crazy
wild.
what you can buy them for. Was there anybody you looked up to as far as the bike building world, whose work that you did like?
Absolutely. So there was, that was back in those blog days for us chopper guys. So that was in between like the Jockey Journal and Chop Colt era. Like Chop Colt was just coming up and Instagram hadn't happened yet. So we were all looking at everybody's blogs and there was this guy, Mac Schaff, he was an old skater, and absolutely like everything he did was gold to me, and just building, I think he had like this 69 slab side that he had chopped, and it was like a short chop with a little springer, and it was just the raddest bike, so that was definitely one of them. And then, as I progressed through it, then I kind of went back to those old TV series and realized that there's a lot of good stuff there, and a lot of
those biker
talent
build-off
there.
shows so much talent, and even the guys that aren't as recognized as some of the big guys that were on that show. I mean, I still like, if I catch it, I'll watch it. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite guys from that whole show was Trouble Lee.
Yeah, that guy's amazing.
Man, he's amazing because he took that LA culture of lowrider and everything else. I mean, everything he did, he built the frame. These guys are getting manufactured frames, putting them on. He built the actual frame and twisted. I mean, I was like, fuck, man. I mean, the skill to do it in the amount of time that he had to do it. Well, what he showed he can do. I mean, I don't know. I've been trying to get him on. I got his number. I chatted with him, but he's such a private guy. He doesn't really
He
like
really
to
is.
talk, but I would be so honored to have that guy on the show.
Oh my God, that
Was there a moment where you felt like, all right, I'm actually doing this, I'm a builder now? Maybe like the first bike that you sold, or a show you got into, or just a realization that, this is actually happening and this is my life now?
totally, yeah, kind of full circle. It happened. So that El Diablo run, the way they're doing it was every other year they started doing that ride through Mexico, and every other year I'd build a different chopper for it.
Nice.
And so some of them were my friends' choppers, some of them were my choppers, and every other year I would do something different. And so I had, from the time we'd go on the ride, and it was like about 1,000 miles through Mexico, and a little sketchy, a little dangerous, and what we'd end up doing is they had a bike show there, and Carrie from Choppers Mag kind of ran the bike show. And I built my first pan head. It was a 57 pan, and rode it down, put it in the bike show. And I was looking around at all the bikes, and mine stuck out. And I said, oh my God, like I can see my bike in this sea of amazing bikes. Like, this is such a cool feeling. And Kerry came up to me and he said, hey man, like, I love the bike. It looks cool. I want to put it in the magazine. And that was that moment that I was like,
Man.
all of my idols, I held on to every word they said in every magazine and loved every single one of them. And for him to say that, like, tough biker dude, trying to choke back tears, like, oh my God. So yeah, so I went and he's like, get home safely, don't get kidnapped by the cartel, and then let's meet up and do this. And so that was super rad. That was a super rad thing for me. And then went and got the pictures done for it.
Wild.
Did the whole thing, and ended up in Choppers Mag. That was my first like feature in a magazine. And then
do you know where that bike is now?
Yeah, I do. So before after the pictures were taken, before the magazine came out, I was hit on that bike by another motorcycle. I turned right, and the other motorcycle behind me went straight through me. And so that bike is totaled, and I got the magazine in the hospital. So my first spread I got while I was laying in the hospital.
While the bike is totaled and you're in the hospital.
Bike was
God
destroyed in my
damn.
garage, and I was sitting in the hospital bed, and the magazine came in, and it was gnarly. I degloved my leg, broke my back, all sorts of fun things. And so that's what happened to that bike. So it's kind of fun that bike, it had its second in history and is no more.
My goodness.
So,
That's a heartbreaker, man.
It was.
You should have been the first motorcycle club president that rode in the back with the group that you ride with, bro. Because that shit's a fucking nightmare from what I'm hearing.
With the luck I had. Yeah, with the luck I had.
It's like, holy shit, man. I would have changed some rules around, man. Like, you fuckers right up front. I'm driving them back at you so I can be safe.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you guys can quit wrecking my choppers, and, not to say anything bad about, stock bikes. I love everybody on motorcycles. Everybody should have a motorcycle.
Me too. I agree.
for me, I won't ride a stock bike.
No.
I can't. It feels wrong to me, like I have to have a customized bike,
It's because you're very, number one, you have chased a passion that you love, which is so beautiful to see. In addition to, you taught yourself and took the measures to get taught by the right people. And now you're able to build what you feel, what you dream, what you vision. That's what we loved about getting you on the show and getting a chance to talk to you, is that I can see it just talking to you, the smile on your face where you light up when you talk about it. So it's beautiful. So that's going to take me into, tell us a little bit about the wrench competition with Indian Motorcycles. Take us how that all started. Take us through that whole story. What happened?
Yeah, that was super rad. So it was one of those, Indian Motorcycles came out with a new model, and they were looking for home builders to potentially build. There was 3 bikes available, and everybody put in, what their ideas were for building a bike. And, I was super honored just to be chosen. There was a ton of people that went out to try to get into that. And, so I submitted.
Sorry to interrupt
That's
for one
okay.
sec. What did they do? They had a situation where they allowed people to submit their idea, and then they chose 12 out of that, right? Is that how it was?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that process, it was like, we all submitted, and then the guy that was running that, he called everybody. He was like, "Hey, can you actually build a bike? Like, do you have any history of building?" You had to submit like prior builds and things like that. And like, are you capable of building a bike? Which is kind of funny because this comes up later on for Born Free Texas. But do you know what you're doing? And it's like, yeah, we had to go through this whole process of like making sure that they weren't going to give you a motorcycle and you're going to, do nothing with it.
Right.
And then, we went through the voting process, and, it was definitely stressful. And there were some guys there that are, top of the line builders that ended up going out for it too. So just to be chosen in that top 12 was pretty cool.
That's a big deal.
And, then, I didn't get picked for the final 3. And, my build was very similar to another guy's that had, he was,
Because you went a little bit outside your norm, because you usually do like super custom, and you went more cafe style, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So I went to like almost like a TT style, like a Mert Law will, any given Sunday street,
Dude, I thought yours was better than the guy that was chosen personally. That's my opinion. And it's not being biased because you're on the show, but like I checked both out, and I'm like, I don't know, this one looks a little bit like yours. I mean, they were both badass, but I don't know, something about yours. Had that been able to produce that and make that into a bike, would look pretty fucking badass. So
I would have loved to have made that into a bike. That would have been something that every once in a while, I still have the fairing that I was going to put on that bike, the TT fairing. I still have it. So I'm like, someday I'm going to build something with that weird old school full fairing, but every time I start a project that I'm going to put it on, it ends up being a chopper, So,
right. So you're not messing around with any FXRs, any of that stuff, right?
So right now I'm actually chopping my first FXR frame for a guy up in Idaho. Nice. Super rad. He's like, "Hey man, I love the frames you're doing on the choppers. Like, will you do my FXR frame?" I was like, "Oh, I would love to get into that." I've never, again, like I've been so choppers only for so long, to be able to, have an opportunity to chop an FXR. I'm pretty excited. Like, they're wild.
Yeah.
So
something new and different.
But I've never built my own chopper FXR. I love what they're doing. There's a lot of them out there right now that I'm like, that is tough and looks good, and probably is far more comfortable than the shit that I ride every day.
Yeah.
You're still, how old are you?
37.
37. Yeah. So you're the same age as Ben. So you still have a young man's back, man. Wait till you're 54, bro, and then fucking try riding a rigid frame.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yeah. It's funny because this friend's been just the coolest guy to me. He was in the 86 Easy Rider cover.
Nice.
Yeah, it was super rad. His name's Joe Tracy, and he's just been the nicest guy. Helps me with parts and finding deals, and he's just, one of my mentors now for sure. Right. But he doesn't ride a rigid anymore. He's got the soft tail that if you know Harleys, it's a soft tail, but it, by glance it looks like a chopper, and it's
he cut the fender struts down, so it looks like a rigid frame from a distance, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it's got these
Nice.
massive apes and a cool Springer front end on it. And it's just the raddest bike, and we don't even think about the fact that he's not on a rigid. Like he's just Joe on his chopper, and it's like there's no rules when it comes to choppers. There can be
That's right.
swing arm choppers, there can be hardtail choppers. It's
I'm
that's the thing about it.
planning to do the same thing. I'm figuring like I'm gonna give myself. I just turned 54, like 56, 57. I like to build it by then. I got a 91 Evo Fat Boy that I bought for like $3,000. And
Perfect.
what we used to do is we used to just build old customs out of that, like 48 pan lookalikes at my shop. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it down and just I got a Springer front end already that I've got in my shop. And I'm going to slowly try to build it with my son over time. You know what I mean? Like, and let him be a part of the build so he can enjoy it when, ever he wants to ride it when we finish with this. So that's the goal. So
cool.
I'm going that way too, because I can't do the rigids no more. There's no way.
Yeah, no. And they're not for everybody. A lot of guys get on and they're like, this is miserable. Yeah, it's not great.
Because most guys are coming off Road Kings and street glides and road glides, Then you jump on that. It's like, dude, you don't even understand.
Yeah, this is horrible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that it's rigids are they're a beast, and they don't handle as good, they can be a little sketchy.
But they look beautiful, man, when they're done.
There's nothing like a rigid
and that's
to
what
me.
it is. That's exactly
Yep.
right.
And yeah, all of I have one bike right now that's a swing arm. It's a 66 slab side that's original looking. That's my only swing arm bike that I own. Everything else is a hardtail. I just
then.
every time I ride that, it's got a pogo seat too, so it's like double luxury. I'm like,
You're like,
that's my
Cadillac, baby. Here we go.
exactly. That's if I got to do some around town that I don't want to be, it's still got the starter on it too. So it's like it's an old cheater bike for me. So it's like if it's too cold or whatever and I'm feeling lazy, I'm like, I'll press the button, I'll have suspension, things are good,
Yeah.
All your stuff is kick?
Everything but that 66 is kick only.
Everything but
yeah.
that. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
kick only, rigid. Yeah, it's I just make good life choices all the way around.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
So getting into the ups and downs and challenges a little bit, it's custom world isn't easy, and working in it and making a living off of it is not easy. Have there ever been any moments where you were just kind of staring down the barrel and thinking about throwing the towel in, or and if not, just any brutal things or periods that you've been through?
I think that, custom motorcycles as a whole is hard. It takes a ton of time, a ton of knowledge, and, there's not a ton of money in it. Nobody's getting rich quick,
Yeah, nobody's doing it for the money.
Yeah, we're not here because, we want to live a life of luxury. We're here because we love motorcycles.
Right.
And I don't think that, anyone that's out there to make money, like pick a different job, like,
Yeah.
and what I do and the stuff I make is not for, I don't, even though it's all handmade and it's all American made, none of it is at prices that are handmade, American made prices. I try to keep everything in a spot that kid coming up, getting his first shovel head, like he can afford to put those parts on.
Right.
I think that that's important, and there's a lot of stuff out there that is just the most amazing stuff you've ever seen, but nobody can afford it, and, I'm not, I don't make the most amazing stuff, but I make stuff that works, that can go on these bikes that, keep them going down the road and they can afford them.
You make some pretty amazing stuff. I'll interject there. You don't have to be that humble.
You do,
Yeah.
man. You do.
But yeah, the industry as a whole, man, it's hard and it's a hard work. It's a lot of work and everybody takes a back seat to the bike. I got two little humans that are the love of my life. And, if I'm building for a show, like we have dinner in the garage,
Right.
if I'm building for a show,
That's
like
awesome.
I don't get to go out and ride and have fun, and the people that work with me, like my, painter friends, Tony and Joey, they literally sit there with me. And the second that, because all those builds for all the shows, they're tight time frames. So as soon as it's time for them to take over, they're right there. I'm handing them parts as I'm finishing them, and they're doing it. And everybody takes a hit to build these bikes, and all to get a attaboy, and that's a cool thing. But to me, that's so worth it, But I think the industry as a whole is just
Cody. You're doing this full time, correct?
So yes and no. So I do this over 40 hours a week, and then I also have a job with the government, which is
okay, cool.
But we're gonna air quote that job word because that's,
hey, but that's what it is, man. And this is some of the things that I think people need to understand is, everything, we talked about this the first time you and I chatted, was talking about like why we do this show, right? We do this show because we live in an instant gratification world, right? Everything's Instagram, quick, beautiful, everything's done, looks to fucking perfection, and everybody's happy. Love, 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 love. But there is so much in between that goes into it. You're a family man, you have two young kids. On top of that, you got to pay the bills and everything else. And you understand that this business takes you to so many places where you can make money, but then you really, and that's one of the things that a lot of guys talk about is sometimes they running a business like you're doing, a small business, and in addition to also having a full-time job where, they can take care of insurance and everything else for the family. So there's a lot of grind that goes into the motorcycle business. It truly is a passion-driven business. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's a we were talking about guys making money off motorcycles. Most of the big names like the Arlen Nesses, the Paul Yaffes of the world, right? Yeah, they have their motorcycle builds and that stuff that they do, but their bread and butter is their parts lines.
Yeah.
So that's how those companies are surviving, is that they sell large different amounts of parts. So, and for smaller guys like yourself and others coming up like Fish and Jason and Jace and all these guys that are coming up, that's a situation where you're trying to balance your passion with reality. And that's the hard part about this industry.
Exactly. Yeah. And Fish is building his parts line, rad. Those lights they're something cool.
Yeah. Fish
I
is
love it.
So cool.
And he's just a top notch dude on top of that. So
he really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We both built for Texas this last year, and
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up, it was random where we put up our booths, and I put up mine next to his, and we had a blast.
Nice.
Him and his guys are just, they're a hoot. They're fun to be around. They're just good people,
Yeah.
And
Good people.
Yeah. And that's never, never a bad thing.
I wanted to ask you back to that last question about the ups and downs. It sounds like, just from reading between the lines, it sounds like one of the biggest challenges you have is the balancing the family life with what you do and getting time with the kids. Do you feel like you get enough time with your kids? Is that like a constant dad guilt trip sort of thing? Am I doing this right? Or
totally. Yeah.
what
I
do you
mean,
think?
it's always, you just don't know if you're doing it right, and I do my best to do, spend as much time with them as I can. But, it's the world we live in. We got to, nobody's making it in this world on one job anymore.
That's
and
right.
nobody's,
Yeah.
doing your best
Very,
you
very
can to
fair.
not screw up your kids in the process. But, bikes,
Absolutely
when
right,
it's time.
brother. How old are
Yeah.
they?
5 and 8 right now. So they're
5 and
little.
8.
Nice.
Yeah. So they're
Very
little
cool.
humans.
Do they like what daddy does in the garage?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the youngest is still sitting on the tanks. She can't sit on the
Yes.
sissy bar yet. And then
Aw.
the 8-year-old, she can go on the
Oh, so you got two
the
girls.
queen
All
side.
right.
All right.
All right.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I was blessed with 2 girls. That was God's way of punishing me for all the bad things
No,
I've
man,
done.
what it does is
Yeah.
I think it humbles you, and it just makes you appreciate it even that much more. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Girls,
got-
daddy's girls, that's for sure.
I got 2 girls also and a son, but so your girls have a new uncle, and my girls, I hope, have a new uncle too when they get into
Absolutely.
their teenage years.
Yeah.
We gotta band together as much as we can, man.
Exactly. Keep them away from guys like us.
No, don't say that. We're good guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some of the magazine features and kind of global recognition. Small guy bounced around, did his builds, found his little niche of what he wants to build. Now you've been kind of featured in magazines in the US and Japan. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I've had some different magazines that have ran my bikes, and it's an honor every time. Like every time I see one of my bikes, it's breathtaking. It's something that I can't. I will never get used to that. Getting out. I've spent all of my youth looking through the magazines. And so when I get those mags now, even though they're kind of out of fashion, but there's still people making them, like Chopper's mag, and there's Dice, and there's some killer ones out there, and Rippers from Japan. Getting those mags is just the most amazing feeling ever. It's like, I feel like you could build the coolest bike ever and it could get 1 million likes on Instagram, and it doesn't feel as good as opening a page and seeing a bike.
Seeing it right there.
Heck yeah.
Because that's how you grew up, and that's how
Analog.
you found your heroes and guys that you followed. Let me ask you this. I know that talking to a lot of guys, going back to like Sacha Kraus, and Sacha's started on his own by himself too, with his dad, and built a small little empire. Is really what he's done. So I know, talking to a lot of the custom bike builders who have done it and have been doing it for a long time, they really appreciate the work that the Japanese bike builders are doing also. Do you feel that the chopper scene is different in Japan compared to the US? Or what's your recollection? I'd love to get your opinion on that.
Yeah. So I feel like with the Japanese choppers, like they took what we've done and they've plussed it in their own way. They're doing things different. There's a lot of cool stuff there.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing that's different?
Like, I love the way that they are integrating their old parts into new builds in a way that we're now is in this industry is like, that crunchy build is very popular right now. It's been popular there for way longer. It's something that's actually kind of come back from over there that, hey, it's okay that, your bike looks aged. And, I love looking at some of their stuff, and, they're doing it in a way that we just, we're mimicking what they're doing now, which is cool, because for so long they were mimicking, the styles that we were producing. Yeah. And so to see it come back is super rad. And I love those bikes.
That's a great analogy, what you said, bro. I felt the same way. So I'm glad that you expressed that like that. I felt the same way as what you said too. Them bringing that back and still making the bike look edgy and old.
Yeah.
I love that too, man.
Yeah.
So cool.
And then they built some crazy, and some crazy performance choppers, which I have a sweet spot for, right? Because when you're riding a chopper, you still want to stop, you want to go, so I'm I'm a big fan of, dual disc front brakes on choppers. Like, I think it looks tough. And they've built some real rad performance bikes, like Hot Doc over there does some just killer builds. They're just, they're magical on my next level. So,
what transpired too is before Ben, I apologize, Ben, cutting you off. But what transpired was, hey, what I noticed over I would say the last 20 years or so, 15 to 20 years, is like a lot of our old parts and like bikes and they were all going overseas. They were buying a lot of that stuff,
a ton of it.
Hey guys, the show will be back in 1 minute right after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, One Gang, tired of feeling like your butt's taking more of a beating than your bike on those long rides? Introducing Butt Buffer, the ultimate solution to saddle soreness. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. These cushions are made from medical-grade viscoelastic polymer, scientifically crafted to eliminate pressure points and keep your circulation flowing. No more numb nuts or numb butts. And here's the best part. Butt Buffer cushions are made right here in the US for the last 30 years. From Harleys to Hondas, we've got a cushion to fit your ride perfectly. Plus, with styles ranging from sleek pebble polymer to luxurious sheepskin, there's a Butt Buffer for every rider's style. Get your Butt Buffer today at buttbuffer.com. That's buttbuffer.com. Your butt will thank you, and you'll ride longer and happier. We've got your butt covered.
So it was hard to get here. Now we're paying like from the pinhead motors. I mean, I've been selling bikes for a long time, and I remember just delivering a couple of motorcycles or delivering bikes to a shipping company like in Fort Lauderdale or Miami, right? And they got a humongous fucking warehouse. So I'm dropping the bike off, doing all my paperwork, and then I look in the corners outside of like badass old cars and badass bikes that are going overseas. I'm looking, and they've got like pinhead, shovelhead, Evos, like on crates, just sitting there, motors that they're buying and shipping. So I'm like, dude, where are these going? He's like, oh, Germany, Austria, Poland, like all, like, you know, just completely out. And I'm like, that sucks, man. I mean, they're buying all our inventory, man, all our old stuff.
It's hard, man. It's a hard thing. I can't say that I haven't shipped motorcycles and engines to Japan.
You have
that,
to.
You know,
pay the
it puts
bills.
exactly. It puts food on the table, and
That's right.
you know, they're paying prices that nobody here's paying. At least they were. That's, you know, calmed down a little bit now. It's not as lucrative as it once was. But, you know, I remember, you know, King Queen seats over here, I was getting them for $50 a seat and selling them over there for $600 a seat.
Yeah.
You know, those are quick flips. Those are easy monies, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, now you can't find any King Queen seats, probably because I bought them all and I shipped them all over there. But yeah.
Hey, for anybody looking for King Queen seats and you can't find them, this is the man you blame, right?
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. But, you know, yeah, I think that, you know, it's, you know, and those cultures, they shift, you know, at some point we'll be shipping them back here. You know, it's as long as they're not going to the scrap bin, I think that, you know, it's
right.
It's a good thing, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So I want to read this next question because I don't want to miss anything.
Okay.
It's important.
Oh God,
So
I got to listen then.
it's mainly highlighting what you do that's right. That's awesome. You've added to your full custom builds by making high quality parts in your garage. And before the next question, I want to quote, all parts are made in the USA in Cody's garage in Reno, Nevada, with coatings finished locally. The steel is also USA made. So that is admirable.
Badass,
That
baby.
is
Badass.
That is 100% incredible. So what led to that transition or the addition of building parts, and how has it changed the way you approach the business?
Yeah. So forever, I thought I was going to be a bike builder, right? Like that's everybody's dream is you're going to be a full-time bike builder. And the truth is that not everybody has full-time bike builder time or money. And, you know, it's hard and it's expensive to have a full build done. But I was noticing that a lot of the parts I had made on a lot of these different show bikes over the years, people were asking for. And so it was time to, you know, produce some of those. And in doing that, you know, there's some stuff that I make all of my bikes have mid controls. It's a West Coast thing. I don't know if you guys on the East Coast even do mids anymore, but so
it's all either forward or
floorboards.
That's it.
Yeah. So here, you know, everybody wants to get their feet underneath them. And so for running an open primary, you got to have that mid control. And the ones that were available were too expensive or poorly made. And I just saw an opening there to be able to make something that people could actually use. But for me, just producing it wasn't enough. I wanted it to be made as locally as possible, you know, and if not local to Reno, local to the United States. And there are parts like the crossover arm. If I make that here, it costs 4 times as much as if I just buy it. And it says right on the website, that some of that, that crossover arm is one of the pieces that comes from drag. You know, it's just a normal crossover arm, but everything else that is made by me is made in America. All the steel is sourced locally, you know, in America. It's not cheap. You know, it's, you know, I could easily get these produced.
Good quality, man.
It's good quality. And I could, you know, to me, it's more important to have it produced here than to just ship it overseas and, you know, get 100 of them made and dump them out. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
USA.
Yeah.
So what machines are you running? What do you got?
So bike wise?
Yeah. Oh, no, like in your shop.
For your parts, what machines are you?
Yeah, for your parts.
Yeah. So I have a little plasma table.
Lathes,
And then I have a little lathe, and then I have my welder. that's all I need for the Trader Cody stuff.
That's an
And I
old
have my-
school, bro.
Beautiful.
Right. And then I have an
Beautiful.
English wheel and a drill press,
Sick.
like nothing magical, just a
Yeah.
standard stuff. And then my TIG welder and a ton of tools. Most of what
Yeah.
I do is like any body forming and stuff like that. It's either English wheel or hammer formed. I don't do anything that nobody has, same shit they've been doing for 100 years,
That's right.
I just,
Yeah.
I'm sure
What kind of lathe do you have?
it's just some old crappy cast one that it's not,
I
it's
had
like
a feeling. That's why I asked.
yeah, it's nothing
That's awesome.
spectacular, nothing to write home
Yeah.
about. God, no, I'd have to go out there and
But it
look and see what
turns.
it is. It spins around.
It turns.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
who cares?
pretty true. It's good enough,
Yeah.
and,
So
So,
listen up,
yeah.
everybody
Cool.
who's creating little parts in their garage or whatever you're doing. If you don't need to go out and spend millions of
You don't need
dollars
a
on machine.
$250,000
You can
Haas
still do a lot of
CNC.
things old school to do it right. And if you
Yep.
want to see
yeah,
as close to perfection as you get, visit his website. You'll see the parts that he makes. Absolutely
thanks, guys.
amazing, man. So
I appreciate that.
let's go to the next one. I saw the 80s inspired chopper you built for the Born Free Texas. Well, it was a killer bike, man. What was the idea behind that build? And did it push you to in any new direction compared to your other stuff?
Absolutely. So I said that the whole can you actually build a bike thing comes back around when they were picking. This is the first year that Born Free Texas had invited builders. And the two guys that own Born Free gave it to two other guys to pick the builders. And my name got thrown in the hat by a friend of mine, which was super amazing. His name's Tony, and he built for People's Champ, did that Cholo knucklehead.
Oh,
And I
wow.
got to build some of the sheet metal there. I like that rear fender. I got to make that, which is cool and
That's
super
really cool.
exciting. And me and Tony have worked well together. Anyway, so he's like, hey, like told those guys he knows them and said, hey, give this guy a look, and so Jason had called me to one of the guys that was picking for the bikes and called me up one day and said, hey, can you finish a bike? I said, yeah. At that point, my Instagram was super small and I didn't post a lot of my previous builds because of, situations. And so,
Right.
so are you sure you can do it? Are you sure? Yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And so he said, well, you're the underdog here. We don't know if you can finish it or not. And, but we're going to give you a shot. And so having that bike there
How long did you have?
oh God. So we found out right before Born Free California. So right before June. And then the show is in October.
Shit.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was quick. Yeah. It was
For people not familiar, to get into these types of shows, are there requirements? Can you kind of go through the requirements maybe for people unfamiliar?
Totally. So as far as how they pick, who they pick, I'm
Not
still,
necessarily who they pick, more about the requirements for each builder, what they want to see.
absolutely. So after I had kind of told him, he had said, what do you have? And I had explained to him, I was like, listen, I got one guy that, wants a cone shovel and has the budget to build a Born Free kind of bike at this point. And he said, okay, great. Like cone shovel it is. And I said, is that going to be okay? And they said, we don't care about the motor. We care about what it is. And then from there, they give you like a list of requirements, they want to see a certain amount of posts, a certain amount of information. You have to, when they email you questions about, what you're bringing, what you need, you have to be on top of your game. And it is not one of those things that, there's a lot of people that, maybe they're doing it the best for them or maybe, whatever the situation is, but they're not great at getting, being on top of what their requirements are.
Is it year specific?
No. Yeah. It's, again, like as far as like what you build is totally, whatever you are telling them you're going to build, they're good with, but, yeah, so it was interesting.
Everything has to start with a frame. You can't take an existing bike and just put some fucking parts on it, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. It has to, I mean, you're building it at custom motorcycle level that, most people only dream about getting to. Like, I was not going to go in there with a stock frame, I was not going to go in there, there was, I don't think that now that I'm thinking about the other bikes there, maybe there may have been a knucklehead frame, which in itself is so rare,
It
that
is. Yeah.
it was cool. But, for the most part, everybody had customized every bit of every part,
Nice.
that there
Nice.
was. And then, so that bike for me, I had one of my best friends was looking to build a bike, and, I said, I gave him a call and said, hey, I got a call about doing Born Free Texas. And he's like, do it. I said, well, I want to do it with your bike. And he's like, do it. And I said, well, I don't need your credit card. So yeah. So no, he was really great about it. And, he let me, pretty much gave me full reign. So there's a
That's
lot of
killer.
like building a bike was like, oh, I want this, I want that. And I try to, make it however somebody else wants their bike. And when we found out about Texas, said, well, this is your bike now. And when it's done, it'll be my bike. And so he gave me more or less full reign on everything about it. And I wanted to do, because it was a cone and that's what we were building for him. I didn't want to just build the 60s bobber with a cone motor. It felt wrong, like it wasn't the right vibe for that. There's so many people out there doing that, and it's not my thing. So I'm like, what were we doing in the cone days? We were doing tough guy stuff, we were building performance bikes with cone shovel heads. And so that's what I built. So, again, dual disc front brakes, disc rear. In fact, I got a Baker tranny in it, 6-speed. And one thing about all of my builds is I don't want to build a bike that sits in a house. They have to be ridden. There's no point in building a motorcycle that somebody's not going to sit on and grip that throttle. Yeah. And put that smile on their face. And, they're made to be ridden. So, so that was cool. So I built that bike up and put a huge King Sportster tank on it, which is, like a chopper no, like you're not supposed to put big old tanks. I'm like, you know what? This bike's going to be ridden. And my friend that owns the bike, he rides it hard. So, big tank, and
there are
some of the other,
what's that, 3.5?
Yeah, it's a full 3.5. Yeah. So, which is massive for a chopper,
chopper, right. Yeah. But if you're going to ride it, you're right, man. You don't want to be at a gas station every 60 miles.
Exactly. So, and then, same with the transmission. Yeah. It's maybe, chopper.
So you are Baker 6 in that, huh?
Yeah. It's got a Baker 6-speed. And it was funny because one of those situations that, some of the bikes there were, they're gorgeous, but in like fishing bike, amazing. Yeah. And it was important to me to have a running riding bike that I brought into that show. And, so we had a running riding bike, and the joke was they have drag racing at Born Free Texas. And I had told the owner of the bike, I'm going to drag your bike. He's like, you're not going to. No, I spent enough money. You are not going to drag race this bike. I'm not going to drag race this bike. So he wasn't going to come to Texas. And the day before the drags, magically he shows up. Yeah. Super excited, super pumped to see him there. And he comes up and goes, hey, good to see you. Here's the bike. Oh, it looks so good. Yeah. He said, so you can drag it.
Killer.
No way.
Yeah. So
didn't see that coming.
So I pulled it.
Came down to make sure you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. I thought so too. And so he came to watch me drag race his brand new build. And so that final day of Born Free, I took it out of the builder's invite, pushed it to the start of the, because they want to mess it up. And I'm just going to drag race it, stupid. Okay. Tons of good choices all the time.
Drag it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I lost. I did not win, but I made it down. I didn't dump it. And I drag raced my
way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was the only one to drag race their Born Free Inviter builder's bike. So that was a win for me.
That's cool. That's really cool. You should have a friggin' plaque for that one.
Yeah, I'm just glad I didn't dump it, because the whole time I was like, I'm gonna crash this thing. It's just so stupid.
Yeah,
what am I doing?
Scared.
Right.
That's nerve wracking, dude. Yeah. I can't believe he came down to bless it.
Just to bless it.
Make sure no.
Flew all the way to Texas and watched the drag and then left.
He trusted you to build it. He'll trust you to drive it. So it's all right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So.
All right. So talking about social media and your online community, quick kind of plug. I wanted to mention you've got some freaking sweet graphics on your website and your social media and stuff. Super cool. I would encourage everybody listening to check it out just because it's awesome to look at. Eye candy. So you're active on Instagram, YouTube. You've got your killer website. How has sharing your work online kind of change the way you connect with people and grow your brand? And was it natural for you? You had mentioned you were into computers with that first guy you were talking about. Was it something it was a muscle you had to grow, or did it just naturally come to you?
Totally. I think with social media, it's such a gamble, right? Like you can have the greatest page, you can have the greatest stuff, and nobody ever sees it,
Right.
And I've been lucky where some of my
Tell
posts.
us about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
We're getting there.
yeah. And it just takes that one video
Yeah.
or one picture to
Right.
bump, and like there was a post I had, most of my Born Free posts were, they were just mediocre posts, and then, one of them blew up and it did really well. And that one post got me like, over 100 followers.
Nice.
It just,
Wow.
it's a gamble. And, I had no social media going into Born Free Texas right before, maybe 8 months before I started my Instagram. I didn't have anything
Jeez.
prior to that. I had a website that, got no traffic because there was no social media, and that was it. So I decided
If
that,
Born Free didn't make you post, that would you have still posted it, you think?
not in the way that I did. Like, I don't like posting my builds through the process. And it's not that I'm trying to keep those secrets. It's that I don't think it's that interesting, like it's,
Sure.
Sure. I don't like the, here's me running a English wheel, pretending I'm on TV. Like those are the pros. I'm just this guy,
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Okay, guys, a lot of you've been asking lately.
yeah, exactly. It's that imposter syndrome, like nobody wants to see me build it. They just want their parts,
You know what? You believe it or not, they probably would. I think it's more of your humbleness of just kind of like, being the guy out of the spotlight and just showing your work at the end. That's who you are.
Yeah, that's what I like, and I like somebody to see the bike and go, that's a rad bike,
Right.
and then to see that bike then, at an event, you're like, holy shit, that idiot rode that thing from Reno,
Right.
Yeah.
But so social media has been tricky for me, and some days are great, some days are not. Because of I ride rigid choppers. There's a lot of haters out there, that either don't believe that that's all I ride, or that think that I'm a total idiot for doing it, which they're not wrong. But
You know what? It don't
Doesn't
matter,
matter
man.
what
You're,
you
you're,
do,
you're
they'll still
doing
be
what you're
there.
doing, and you're doing it your way, and you can rest your head every night knowing that. So that's the important part. So listen,
Exactly.
if you could go back and give young Cody some advice when he was starting out, what would you say?
God, that's a good one. Oh, I think to value, value the work that I was putting into some of the earlier builds more than I did. Like a bunch of my early builds, I literally gave to people. Like they would, it was the price of the bike. And, I thought they were my friends.
Right.
Exactly. And you're like, oh, no, I'm just doing this because they're my homies, and they weren't homies. They were just looking for bikes,
Yeah.
And I think that would be big. And then invest into cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Before it was even out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's funny, dude.
Huh.
All right, cool. Thanks. That's a good one.
That was fun.
All right. So, Cody, what's next on the horizon for you? You got any exciting projects or shows or things that you're working towards that people should know about?
Yeah, so I got a couple of shows coming up. We're going to do this one up in Oregon that, oh God, I don't remember the name of it.
That's all right.
Cherry City Classic is what it's called. And it's going to be fun. It's an indoor show, so that should be a good time. That'll be the second time that the Texas bike has been out in public, other than riding around the owner's house. So that'll be cool. That'll be the second time that bike is seen. Then honestly, we do a couple of decent rides that we're getting ready for. That it's a ton of planning, but we do this thing called the Redwood Rebel Run, and it's a bunch of us dudes that are on choppers, and so we're starting to plan for that, and then have a ton.
Where does that run to?
So we leave from Reno, and then we ride through the Redwood National Forest. It moves every year. We change it around, but there used to be a run back in like the olden days, the good days that everybody, the glory days that I never knew.
Right.
Yeah.
that used to be in the Redwoods, and all the graybeards talk about, hey, there's this
Yep.
ride
Yep.
and it was epic. So they stopped doing it some time ago. And so
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of us on Chopper said, you know what, let's
Kind
do
of a
this.
Is it
Yep.
for
Yeah.
everybody in regards to can other people, if they were interested, could they ride with you guys?
Absolutely.
Or is
So
it
it's
a
one of
select group?
we're not sure right now what it is. We're still figuring it out. Every year we invite some more friends. What we've done up until this point has been an invite only situation. And pretty much, an invite is somebody calls and says, hey man, I really want to go. I'm like, yeah, come with us. But
Right.
there's some rules that we have, and you've got to be on a custom bike. No stalkers, that's it. And then there's no chase trucks, and it's 1,000 miles.
Damn.
Do not bring
No
a chase truck.
No chase truck, huh?
No chase truck. So
Everybody's
whatever
got tools in a bag.
tools, a bag, a bottle, some ciggies, and you're good. Like that's what you
right.
get,
Yeah.
And so everybody has been, through the years, we've blown a couple of bikes up, and those guys, they have to be resourceful. And it's about doing it like it was back in the day. So we had one guy one year, he went and rented a U-Haul. And that's how after he blew his motor up, he rented a U-Haul, and that's how he got home. Another guy, he blew up right outside of town. He left his bike in a ditch, and he rented a car and figured his stuff out, and it just makes it so you have to have a chopper that's rideable. You have to have a custom bike that's rideable. And if it's not rideable, what are you even doing? So It's been really cool to see guys that, they work outside their comfort zone trying to fix problems that they didn't even know could exist, and they figure it out. And that's magical to see those dudes do that. And so anyways, so we're getting ready for that, and starting the early planning of that for the upcoming year.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
when is that going to be?
We do that at the end of September. There's this goofy little motorcycle event that's been dying for years here in town, and they've downsized it, and they took all the good stuff away over the years, and we do it on the same weekend. So we leave when everybody else comes to town. We get out of town.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. So to close it out, we'll get into the speed round next. I wanted to just ask for, let's say, young Cody listening to this podcast somewhere, whether it's in the States, we're downloaded in 37 different countries, thankfully. So thank you, everybody. But
yeah,
listening to this show, who loves choppers and maybe wants to start building their own, what's the best piece of advice you can give them?
do it. Yeah. Don't wait.
Nice.
Get out there and start working on it. Like, I think that everybody should have a custom motorcycle. It's motorcycling is amazing. And if all I ever had was a stock, whatever, I'd be happy. But putting that little touch on it just makes it that much better. It just makes that smile that much bigger,
Awesome.
And then get out there and get into those junior colleges and get those trade schools, get the welding, get the fabrication. Almost every junior college has a class. You can take electrical. There's a ton of electrical classes too. Like, you can learn about your equipment for not a lot of money,
Yeah.
And it might not be motorcycle specific, but you'll learn how to move that into what you're doing.
Awesome.
So
thank you for that.
That's cool.
Appreciate that.
So we got the speed round coming up, but before we do, we're going to link you up in show notes, and we've got your Instagram, your YouTube, and I'm going to throw the wrench feature in there too. Is there anything else you'd want us to add into the show notes?
I think that's good, man. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
you go with all that. Thank you.
Man, this time's flown by. This has been fun, man. Awesome getting a chance to get to know you. You're a great young guy, man, and Ben and I are huge fans, so that's going to be a lot of fun to just watch you progress through the years. So hope you continue with this. All right, Ben, let's get 2 minutes on the clock.
Okay, so fair warning. I've been watching these speed rounds, and I'm probably going to tank this really bad.
He's already got answers written down. All right, let's go.
All right. Number 1, if your bike could talk, what's one thing it would nag you about?
Oh, God. You don't have to be full throttle all the time. I'm just a little 74-inch panhead. Stop it.
All right. What would be the absolute worst superpower while riding?
Oh God. X-ray vision. Cause when
See
those,
it through.
yeah, we can't be looking at other cars drive by when you're trying to ride,
Yeah, good call.
Yeah,
Good
for
Gotta
cars,
focus.
right?
Good
Right.
call.
Yeah. What is the best motorcycle you've ever owned or ridden?
Yeah. It'd have to be my Panhead, my 64 Panhead.
64.
I love that
Right on.
bike.
Nice.
If motorcycles didn't exist, what's one weird hobby you'd be known for?
I'd be dead.
If they didn't exist, there's nothing to live for, man.
Yeah, there'd be no purpose, right? Yeah, I'd probably do some other stupid thing like fly planes or something wild.
Right on. Yeah, cool. All right, what's your guilty but go-to pleasure for an alcoholic beverage? And if you don't drink, what's your go-to snack?
Oh, I'm a shitty beer guy. Like, give me the cheapest beer in a
Nice.
bar after a nice hot day of riding around. Like,
PBR, Natty Light.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
classics.
whatever. Yeah, Miller
Coors
Light.
Banquet.
Exactly. Yeah,
All right.
any of those. Just no Bud Light.
All right.
Oh, Bud Light.
All right. What's the most underrated piece of gear every new rider should consider?
I would invest in a set of gloves. Yeah.
Common answer. Good call.
2 skin grafts later. Gloves
Yeah,
are
man.
important.
No question, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
2 skin grafts
All
later.
right. If
huh?
you could
Shit.
get up on stage and sing or jam with one band, who would it be?
Queen of the Stone Age. Yeah,
Nice.
those guys are rad. I love
Solid.
those dudes. And they
Wow.
ride from the 2 of the members of the band ride from gig to gigs.
Oh, no shit.
Which
No,
Yeah.
No way.
yeah, you
Didn't
can't
know
be
that.
sad about that. So
No, that's the first
No, that's
mention
awesome.
in a year and a half. So,
Funny.
Queens of the Stone Age. So that's good.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. If you could, this one's tricky. If you could recommend one book, film, or documentary to every motorcycle enthusiast, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Easy Rider. Right?
All right. Cool.
Like-
yeah.
That's where
I
it all
know,
started.
they're doing every-
man.
Yeah, they're doing everything right in that movie. They're riding choppers across country, partying their asses off, and they do
Right.
stupid shit and get killed. So it's pretty much,
the life of the chopper world.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's the life of a chopper guy.
Don't listen to that, kids.
All right.
No,
Knucklehead, Panhead, Shovel, or Evo?
I think everyone's special in their own way, right? Panhead,
Yeah.
but Panhead's the best. We can all agree, right?
I love. That's mine too, man.
Yeah, but
All
God,
right.
I mean, shovelheads are super. I mean,
See, I like Panda and
Panda.
Evo. I love Evos. They're such bulletproof motors, man.
yeah, 200,000-mile motor. You can't go wrong with that.
No,
You
it's
know?
still
Yeah.
to this day, in my opinion, best motor they ever built.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You
I
look
don't.
like you were hesitating or questioning yourself on the pan.
I know I was. I mean, I ride my Pan. That's my daily rider. But shovelheads make the best choppers because you easily put an electronic ignition in a cone shovel. And for guys that aren't used to magnetos and not used to dealing with
Right.
that stuff, put an electronic ignition in it and rock. And, if not that, Evos can be found cheap still,
Right.
which you can't get shovelheads cheap anymore. So, whatever gets you going down the road is the right
That's right.
answer.
That's right. Good call. But the most
Good
beautiful
call.
one
Speaking
is
of-
the Panhead.
But Panhead's the best stuff.
Slide that in there. Speaking of, best place you've ever ridden and why?
I love the Redwoods. It's something that is, if you haven't done it, it needs to be done. It's the most amazing trip you can take. The smells, the sights, the feels, it's magical. It's one of those places that, words can't explain what it's like riding in the Redwood National Forest. Like it's
Killer.
amazing.
Awesome. All right. What's a common maintenance mistake that even experienced riders sometimes make?
Oh, that's a hard one. Not checking your spark plugs, especially on the old bikes. A lot of fouled plugs out there and people just kicking all day and kicking and not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
He's got a fouled spark plug. So that's the most common one I see out
That's
when we're out
actually
riding.
excellent advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
If you could time travel, which era would you go to and why?
To the 50s for sure. And just because
Right
that's when you didn't have to put Made in America on your products. because
Yeah.
everything was made in America.
Yep.
You know, that's where things were made, and you know, where hot rods were coming into fashion, and you know, Friday night cruising down the strips were a thing, and you know, those are all lost now. You know, people are too busy Instagramming, and they're not doing that anymore.
You're so right, man.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful part of our history, and it's so lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Man. All right, last dinner ever. What would it be?
God, so this is the one that everyone's like, steak and my steak.
Yeah.
I just steak and cheap beer just can't be, you know, can't mess it up.
Steak, man. I mean, shit.
I know.
I love.
And I wish I had a more refined taste. I could say some, you know, fancy French cuisine, but
no,
I just want
French
steak,
cuisine.
potatoes, and some beer.
Yeah, nothing like a good steak.
Which cut? Ribeye, fillet, strip? Kind of man are you?
The fillet. You just can't go wrong, right?
Too.
Like,
I'm
just
it's
just the best.
Yes.
All right. Okay, what's the funniest prank you've ever pulled on a fellow rider?
Okay, so being a chopper guy, I feel like this is more done with maybe everybody does this, but we consistently fuck with each other all the time. Like, it just is endless messing around, and I don't think I could pick one thing other than every time we go out and we go camping, we do a lot of camping together and a lot of riding around, and there's always something that somebody does that's just the funniest shit ever. I don't think I could pick one thing. I do have on my Magneto, my kill switch is on the side of my mag. And one of my buddies, his favorite thing is try to kick it with his foot and kill my bike while I'm riding it. So not safe. Don't do it at home. But yeah, that's something that's pretty common.
That's funny.
So, all right. Last question. Besides the One Gang podcast, what is your other favorite podcast or podcasts out there?
So a lot of the podcasts I listen to are like the older, like the Dice magazine podcast had one for a while. It was pretty good. And then that cat that rides that FXR chopper around. What's he?
What's the name of that one? Yeah, I know what you want to talk about.
You know what you're on? Orange bike. I don't know names. I just know their bikes, right? Like, but yeah, but you guys for sure.
Is that still going? Is that a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, he's still riding around and still doing podcasts, which is, you know, every once in a while he'll catch a guy that, you know, I, you know, looked up to or want to hear more about. And so that's always super interesting.
That's cool. Well, you did it, brother.
You made it.
You
finished
it. You finished within 2, man. We were gonna get some custom built bikes sent to us, but you did.
Oh man, I would not be sad about that.
It'd be awesome, man. But listen, in all sincerity, brother, thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, coming to see us, man, coming to spend a little time. Like I said, you know, a lot of more people listen to our podcast than the YouTube part of it. So, and I get it. But if you guys could truly get a chance to see the smile on this young man's face, man, as he's talking about what he does and the efforts that he puts in and how much he really loves this industry, this is what it's all about to us, man. Just to be able to get somebody who truly cares and loves what he does and be able to portray it out to our audience and try to inspire our younger generation to come on board, man, and carry that torch for the next couple of decades and keep continuing to build beautiful stuff and create beautiful parts, whatever it is that's involved with two wheels. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having us. It's been a ton of fun, and yeah, I'm looking to see you guys out on the road and, you know, getting some cheap beer together.
Well, one more year in the studio, and as we can keep continuing growing the way we have been, that's the vision for year 3 is to do it on the road and go to all the events around the country and be able to talk to guys face to face and get them on that way. So, I'm sure we'll be seeing you on many biker build-offs in the future, man, because you got a bright history, you got a bright future ahead of you. You're an incredible builder, very creative.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, appreciate you, Cody.
Right on.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks for being here, Cody.
See you.
Have a good one.
All right, appreciate you, Cody. Take care, buddy.